Welcome, everyone, to the Everything Show, episode 461. I am your host, Matrix Lord 212, and I'm with Daniel. What's up, Daniel?
Hello.
What's up, Scott?
Going good.
The Mets win! The friggin' Mets win! Going to the World Series, babies. They swept the Cubs.
Well, duh, right there.
The whole Back to the Future thing is out the window.
Yeah.
Reversed. They're swept. They're not even going to make it to the World Series. I can't tell you. Like, I don't even know what I'm thinking right now. Like, I'm excited because I'm like, oh my God, how much are these tickets going to cost? I want to go. Oh my God.
Paris win.
Amazing. I'm so friggin' happy. Today's been such a crazy day today between work and, you know, this whole thing. I missed out on the Back to the Future thing. I didn't get the tickets for the whatever lottery thing that was, so I was a little disappointed with that. Then I went and I got the comic. That was terrible. Back to the Future comic, I'm very sorry, not trying to be negative, is absolutely, in my opinion only, awful. You know, how could you have a comic without them traveling through time?
Oh, no.
Without them having any of the other characters, like no Biff, no Griff, no Buford, no Lorraine, no George McFly, like Needles. Really?
Oh.
Like, how could you have a comic about Back to the Future without time travel? This is god awful. Okay? It's so misleading that you see the cover and they show the DeLorean, like, and they show all the different time periods, and none of that is in the comic. What you get is like some type of thing that could have been in a newspaper, like Sunday's comic, where you have Doc Brown trying to explain to his kids that the different thing with the story of Marty, how he met Marty, which was god-awful story that they actually tried to attempt to explain how Marty met Doc, which they tried to portray Marty that he was being bullied by Needles. First of all, that would never happen because Marty doesn't get bullied, so this was crap immediately. Immediately. The fact also that Marty would try to steal from Doc is immediately garbage. In my mind, garbage. Okay? And then you do another secondary story in the book where you try to explain where Doc went to go work and all these stupid things. It is not Back to the Future. It is back to the side story. That's basically what it is. You know, let me tell you something. It's so bad.
How much did it cost you?
$4. It's so bad, right? I rated a 0. And if anybody in the United States wants my Back to the Future comic, I will ship it to you. Whoever. I will spend the postage and send it out just to get it out of my house. That's how bad I hate the comic. Totally awful. I will not get a second issue.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there a rule about sending incendiary devices through the mail?
Yeah. Comic books you can send in the mail, yeah. Now, this, I'm telling you, honestly, I should have got, I don't know why. See, the thing is I get paid tomorrow. So I just had enough for one comic. Why would I think to get this rather than Amazing Spider-Man number two? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my thing. But today was Back to the Future Day, so I got caught up in the hype. But I was, like, dying because I really wanted to get Amazing Spider-Man number 2. And I'm like, so I read it on the ferry. So disappointed. And again, look, there's a thing where people are like, oh, you know, if you can't say something nice, don't say it at all. No. The reason why you have to say that it's bad is because you don't want anybody else to fall into the trap of getting that garbage. You know, and in my opinion, honestly, if you're not traveling through time, don't call it Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Okay? You know, it's not called...
contradictory feelings of like you were torn between your Spider-Man and the Back to the Future thing.
Right.
The future self was probably sending mind beams back to you.
Right. That's like saying having a Star Wars movie without Jedi and Sith.
Yeah.
Okay? There's no time travel whatsoever in a Back to the Future comic. And you may say, well, it's a starting on point. No, baloney, okay?
No.
Because from the get-go, what they should have did was they should have explained where Doc went when he left Marty. You know, if you're going to do any comic, do it like that. But then if they're not allowed and they got to do side stories, okay, but still at least travel through time.
This is like a zero issue they put out a lot of times to get you set up with an updated version or a new release.
See, like they could have had like Doc go into what happened when Doc first arrived in 2015 and when he made the DeLorean hover conversion and stuff like that. They could have did stuff like that if they really can't go crazy, right? But they didn't. They did some boring stuff that is just, they're showing Doc struggling to rebuild a time machine in the Old West when his kids are born, and it's just boring, okay? It's terrible, and they portrayed, whoever did this, like, in my mind, you know, and I'm probably going to get heat from this.
They're probably not familiar with Back to the Future in the first
Well, maybe they are. I mean, you know what? Let me get the comic, and you guys can talk for a second. Hold on.
That just sounds like a sucky comic, and I very rarely get I can't remember a sucky comic like that I got.
All right, so here is the comic. All right. Again, none of this. You don't see any of this. You don't see no time traveling. You don't see anything. You don't see any of these characters. No Lorraine. No Biff. No George. No terrorists. No nothing. All right. False advertisement, if ever I saw one. Yes, that's the movie, but none of this stuff happened. Okay, so this stuff is called Untold Tales and Alternate Timelines. And this is just terrible. And the first thing's called When Marty Met Emmett. And it's just dumb. I mean, it's done, and again, I do apologize. And I can't, you know what, I can't read real names on here because then I get in trouble. But, again, I am really not happy with this at all. And I won't get another one because this is not, you know, again, and maybe if the word can come to these people, you can't do a Star Wars without a Jedi or a Sith or the Force.
Mm-hmm.
So what you did here is you tried to do something unique where you did a Back to the Future comic without time travel. It doesn't work. Okay, the reason why I got this is to see where they go, what happens, even if it's a flashback or something, there's still time travel involved that we didn't see. So you can't, you know, they could. And first of all, I didn't like the character of Needles, but he was never really a big character anyway. Okay, they mentioned him like briefly, and then we got to see him. But my question is, as a Back to the Future fan, right? We've seen Biff Tannen. We've seen his grandson Griff, right? Yeah. We've seen Buford Tannen, right?
Yeah.
Where is Marty McFly's generation of Tannen?
Yeah.
Like, and here's the thing that people don't realize right away. For some reason in my mind, I envisioned that Biff had a daughter and not a son. Because if Biff had a son, okay, which is probably making him a little more grumpier. If he had a son, he'd be picking on Marty every minute of the day, okay? So in my mind, Biff had a daughter who wasn't even as bad as Biff, but then it skips a generation, and then her grandson's just as bad as him. So that, I mean, her son is just as bad as him. So in my mind, the reason why we don't see a Tannen in 1985 that's Marty's age is possibly because maybe she's a good character and they don't have any problems. And like when he sees Biff, it's like, oh, it's friggin' what's the name's father. You know what I'm saying? It's like You know what I'm saying? Because we never, ever, ever hear about Biff's kid. We hear about Biff's grandkid.
Yeah, always the
So,
grand.
so I envision it as a writer that she's a female, she's a daughter, and she's okay. You know, maybe they have her in the back. I mean, maybe she's a friend or acquaintance or whatever,
Yeah.
and from the neighborhood, and because you see Biff coming over all the time, picking on George, so it's implied that well, I mean, not that it's implied, but I would think that they're okay with each other, like the Marty and Biff's daughter, because again, there's no
Yeah, they
way.
hang out together and.
There's no way if he had a son, he wouldn't be picking on Marty. Of course he would. So, because Griff, who's the same age as Marty McFly Jr. or whatever, picks on Marty McFly Jr. You know, Griff. So that's what my conclusion is. Now, why couldn't we see that? Why couldn't we see something happen in the Old West? Like, first of all, Buford can't go to jail, because if he goes to jail, he can't meet his true love. He can't have kids, and then there's no Tannins at all. So they could have did something like that. That, for some reason, Doc and Marty have to go back to the Old West to save Griff or break him out of jail, which is crazy. You know?
He gets framed. Maybe he gets framed for something like.
Well, it could be that he wasn't supposed to be put in jail. That he was supposed to be out, and because they arrested him, that's going to ruin the whole timeline. You know? In my mind, because, and again, as a writer, they always implied that they said that George McFly wrote a book because he was obsessed with science fiction, right?
Yeah. Maybe
Doc crashes the train into a UFO that has that whole, something similar to Roswell, but the spaceship lands in George McFly's backyard, and as a child, he sees it, which inspires him to write A Man from Space. Okay, so that's another thing. Like, we could play off that. Okay, with the space and the aliens.
They could do that as a black and white comic book,
right?
To at least give readers the chance, like, okay, this is what happens here, this is what happens here.
And they try to get everything so it doesn't really mess up the timeline, but again, he sees what he has to see, he sees the alien, he sees the thing, he thinks it's a dream, but it inspires years later just to be obsessed with science fiction. So, I mean, I would do that. Or I would have, the DeLorean go somewhere else other than the future. It could be the past. It could be like Atlantis or something crazy, that he went back in time so much that he didn't realize there was an ancient civilization that's advanced technology or something. It's like that, maybe it could be Atlantis. Maybe it could be Atlantis that they had advanced technology, and then something happens and they get underwater or something. It's like. I mean, that's what dialogue for these characters. Doc is not saying 1.21 gigawatts like in a regular sentence, like a regular dialogue. He said it in one because that was the thing that happened.
Yeah.
He said "Great Scott" once in a while, okay, but you don't know how to write for Doc Brown or Marty, so don't even bother. And
these people weren't familiar with they probably saw Back to the Future maybe.
Well, I'm going to look this guy up because, again, he could be that he is, but just to put out a comic, I mean, let me get your thoughts, Daniel, because I'm really interested in what you have to say about a comic, Back to the Future.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but it sounds kind of, I'd probably read it, I mean, I know it's not that, it doesn't sound very good, but I'll read it anyways.
Right. Okay, so Bob Gale... I said it anyway. Bob Gale worked on Back to the Future as the movies, but I don't understand why he would put this out. I don't understand that, because that for the life of me, I mean, this is just awful. Like, I wouldn't you wouldn't do. First of all, if you're gonna do a comic, right? Wouldn't you do the comic based on what a movie could be, rather than if you would never put that in a movie, then why would you put it in a comic? That's my whole point. You know what I'm saying? I mean, again, nothing against Bob Gale, but the thing is that he would never do this in a movie. So why? And Needles is not. I don't see Biff. I don't see Lorraine. I don't see. This is just not an explanation for me. I mean, maybe I don't know. I really.
I think it's a lead up to the next book where they're saying, okay, you see.
But then why couldn't this be a 0 issue then?
Oh,
Why couldn't it?
0 issue. Okay.
I would have this as a 0, not number 1.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe he's not used to doing comic books. I mean, the thing is, like, number 1 is supposed to be, boom. Like, if you're going to do something like this would be a 0 issue. And then you would go into it. I did not like it at all. I think it's horrible. Again, you know, it's one thing for him to write Back to the Future, great, but not the comic. That's like, you know, there's a reason why there's no Back to the Future 4. So if there's no Back to the Future 4, 5, or 6, then don't even bother doing a comic then, in my mind. You know what I'm saying? So, not really happy about it. What do you think, Scott? I mean,
it's, yeah, if they're gonna, like I said, if this was gonna be a comic book to continue on, it should be 0. And then the only other idea I can think of is the cover's gonna be a setup to the next issue. If it's not going to be a 0, but I agree. If they're going to have something like this, which is, like you
I
said,
mean, you know what? Argument's sake, maybe I should get the second issue, but again, I just don't understand why they would, you know, have this.
I would. Is there a chance for you to be able to just gloss over the second issue at the comic book shop that you're at, or?
And in the next month, they show this. They show, you know, they just show a picture of 1955 and 2015, but again, and Griff, but I don't know if any of this stuff is going to be in there. You know?
I would
wait a minute.
A chance to gloss over the comic book before buying it, and if it looks halfway decent.
Oh, I guess they're trying to say this is an alternate timeline. I don't know. I really don't like this, but whatever. I'm very disappointed. But we'll see.
Get your Spidey and forget about the Back to the Future.
I'm going to go get my Spidey tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good old Dan Slott. I won't be disappointed with that. So, there you go. So, other news we have. Well, Daniel, did you want to talk anything about Star Trek?
Yeah. I sent you this.
I saw that yesterday, and you sent it again today. They
I
didn't
wanted to make sure.
From their point of view, they don't understand why fans hate Into Darkness more than Insurrection. I watched it actually. I watched it. Yeah, I watched it, and from my point of view, as a fan, okay, to me, I've watched everything, okay, so I'm going to be more critical than they are, because I'm a Trekkie nut, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The biggest problem why people would put this under the bus compared to Insurrection is that Insurrection, okay, maybe it wasn't the greatest storyline in the world, but it didn't make any of the characters be out of character. You know, it didn't like spit on the legacy of Star Trek. Khan did, because Khan was totally different from the Khan we knew. This should have never been a movie because we've seen Wrath of Khan. This tried to be Wrath of Khan and failed. They tried to change his nationality, his everything. It didn't work. No, it didn't work teaming up with Khan. No, it didn't work betraying Khan. No, it just didn't work. So people just didn't like. First of all, to do the terrorist thing in the beginning of the movie too, like a 9/11 thing, nobody wants to see that. Nobody. That's like taboo. Like, you don't make Freddy Krueger be a freaking pedophile, and you don't do a 9/11 thing in a Star Trek movie. Okay? Because this is supposed to be the future where that stuff doesn't happen. Because they're supposed to be evolved to a point where humanity has accepted each other equally. So to do that nonsense, to blow up their own cities, that doesn't happen in Gene Roddenberry's universe. Any Starfleet wouldn't ever do that. Okay, so I don't agree with that, and I don't agree with them. If you change the timeline in the universe, then do original stuff.
Yeah.
Do different villains. Don't copy off of movies that already exist. That's like having two Wrath of Khans. Of course the fans reject it because you copied off of another movie.
And you just have Spock do the Kirk thing of Screaming Khan anyway.
Yeah, would you do a Star Trek V over? Absolutely not. Going to see God in the Great Barrier? No, man. Stop copying off. That's worse than anything, is to copy off your own movies. That's worse. So that's why, Daniel, that people reject the movie, because it's copying off of the greatest Star Trek movie of all time and crapping all over it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is, okay? So that's why they'll put any Star Trek movie, even Galaxy Quest, they put in the running
Yeah, that's
as a fact, because that's more Star Trek than Into Darkness.
Yeah,
but
I
gotta say, beyond,
what they said, like, you know, like these people may have won in their little bubble, but the rest of the world thinks you're stupid.
yeah, but they're not Trekkies to say that. You're having people that are not Trekkies criticize Trekkies. You can't do that. That's like someone who's not a Whovian.
These guys are Trekkies.
They're not really like. Well, I mean, they're Trekkies. They watch every episode.
Yeah, you like Star Trek.
Everyone.
Well, I don't know.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
I know that these guys are Trekkies.
They're not full-fledged Trekkies like we are. Probably. So to say that, oh, I can't stand people like that. Please. Please. I don't agree with them all. All right. But I do think, though, Daniel, that Star Trek Beyond is going to be good.
Yeah.
I think so, man.
I've been looking for information all day, but, you know, there's nothing. No,
there's nothing on it. We do have some movie news, if I can talk about. And that being said, we have Peyton Reed is being asked to come back. He worked on Ant-Man. He was the director. So they're trying to get him back to be directing Ant-Man and the Wasp. So that looks good so far. I mean, if he could sign aboard. They says no writers have been secured, but that's what they want so far. Peyton Reed. Excuse me. Did you see Ant-Man?
no.
Oh.
No? You saw it, Scott.
Oh, yes. It was good.
Yeah, and it's still making money.
I'm going to go see Thor 3, though. I heard Hulk is in there.
Yeah. Yeah, Hulk, I guess that's setting up Planet Hulk.
Yeah.
So, you know, he goes to Asgard and causes problems. And, of course...
Wait, are you sure?
I'm not sure about...
Planet Hulk?
I'm not sure about Planet Hulk. I'm thinking that's what they're doing. Because why else to bring Hulk in space?
Yeah.
Other than to maybe take a punch to Thanos first.
Yeah, that was a good storyline. The Illuminati shot Hulk into space, you know, to get rid of him, and then goes to Planet Scar, and he becomes like, you know, he fights those weird alien things.
Right.
And then there's like a nuclear bomb inside the ship, and it blows up his entire kingdom. And it's like a weird nuclear bomb or something. I've never seen anything like that powerful. Like, did you see what it did? It vaporized the planet's tectonic plates. People were like sinking into the planet.
But the thing is that maybe we won't have Planet Hulk, because maybe again the sole purpose of bringing them into space is to fight Thanos first, or being going into galaxy or something and be lost in space or something. I don't know. But again, I think at first I was against it, but I think I like the Hulk being in Asgard, because Thor's going to be going up against the Executioner, the Enchantress, all these big wigs. So maybe it would be cool to have the Hulk be part of that. You know, he's right up his alley, fighting frost giants and stuff like that. So he'll love that.
I don't think they can do World War Hulk though, because they need Fantastic Four and they need X-Men. They don't have them.
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna do that. at all. But
The only way they could do it is they could loosely mention them. Don't like mention them by name, but just say these groups and just like do like a little hint. And you see like a blue of over here and maybe a or a like whatever color they want to use Wolverines, but you just see like a blurred image, so you can't. That's the only way I could think of doing it.
right. The thought of the Hulk and the Guardians of the Galaxy is interesting too. I mean, he won't be in 2, but he'll be in. I guess it'll be I guess part of Avengers Infinity War Part 1 would be Guardians of the Galaxy with their separate thing, with the Hulk there, and then meeting up in 2, Infinity War Part 2, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, does Infinity War have... I never read Infinity War. Does it have alternate universes in there?
Well, the first storyline was Infinity Gauntlet, and that's Thanos with the gauntlet, defeating everybody. Then there was a sequel, Infinity War, where I'm trying to remember what that was about. I think one of them had the evil version of Adam Warlock, which was what was it? The Magus, right, Scott? I think it was. Yeah. It was in that storyline, and then the Infinity Crusade was a female version of Adam Warlock. That's like a cross. She's still evil too. It's like it kind of gets complicated.
Almost like a enchantress form of Adam Warlock.
Right. Like we had one thing where we had doppelgangers of everybody. I think that was Infinity Crusade, right? To do with fate and stuff.
I went back and checked, but
yeah, it's been so long since. Let me just. I'm gonna Google it because I haven't read it in a while. So let me just. Hold on a second.
It would be great to see the fact they should have Howard in the last one. If that's a little nudge saying we're going to do another Howard the Duck, and the last time I read something talking about the second one, they had pictures of Rom, and I'm wondering if they're going to get the go-ahead to use, if not his Space Knot version, then at least his human form in the second Guardians.
Okay, so again, this one has Adam Warlock and the Magus and Thanos, and he tries to reactivate the Infinity Gauntlet, and basically they have a whole bunch of doppelgangers and stuff like that, the Ultimate Nullifier, and basically, I guess the Magus gets defeated, but then the Goddess is born, I guess, which is the Adam Warlock's supposed to be good version, and that's another storyline with the Infinity Crusade. So. But then there was another one. I didn't read the one after that. I think there was was it Infinity Revelations or Infinity? I gotta look it up.
Ooh, jeez.
Let's see. And the Infinity Crusade was hero Adam Warlock takes possession of the artifact, the Infinity Gauntlet. He expels the good and evil aspects of his being to become a totally logical being who can therefore use the gauntlet wisely. This act not only frees incarnations of his evil aspects, the Magus, but also creates an incarnation of his good aspects, the Goddess. During the events of the Infinity War, the Goddess steals the 5 cosmic containment units, also known as cosmic cubes, collected by the Magus. She eventually collects a total of 30 and uses them to form a cosmic egg capable of fulfilling wishes. And of course, they both get defeated, and then they both get contained, and that's basically that. Yeah, so they're not going to do any of those. They're probably just Infinity War is basically the Infinity Gauntlet. That's basically what we're going to have. They just retitled it. They're not going to call it Infinity Gauntlet. It's going to be Infinity War. So,
yeah, the Guardians and all the rest of them just battling Thanos.
everybody's in it, basically. So, that's what we get.
Basically, an Expendables for space.
I guess you could say that with the superheroes and, you know, Expendables in space, yeah. Of the super variety. That's it. I'm just going to check Ant-Man's box office numbers because it still is making money. It's still making money. So,
Well, which proves if you make a decent movie and you allow the fans to make it great, it'll go on.
we're at 454 million. And maybe that's where it's going to stay. They say it's going to make 500 million and then it's going to finish. So, I think that's possible. You know, amazing. Great job by Ant-Man there. And Daniel?
Back on that little station.
Oh, and the last news, of course, Nike had sent Michael J. Fox the self-lacing sneakers, but only he has it, and nobody else in the world has it. Meaning that Nike. So
They probably want him to test them out, and then because they should, yeah, they showed. They said that they were telling like this button on the front tightens them. There's a button on the back that loosens them.
I said, listen. My whole thing is they had years to do this. I don't have any excuses why it's not out. Just like Pepsi Perfect should have been in the stores rather than make a couple thousand when millions of people want it.
Yeah.
In the stores for regular $2 or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not right. I mean, how many Pepsi craps do you make that half the people don't like anyway? I mean, I'm a Pepsi drinker, don't get me wrong. But I don't drink all different types of Pepsi. I mean, it's just few. But Pepsi Perfect is the one thing that people are actually telling you, hey, we buy this, dude, and they're not putting it out. You know, you don't see anybody knocking on Pepsi's door for any other drink.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, yes, people regularly drink soda, but this would have been added revenue. Added. Like, millions of people are telling you, I want Pepsi Perfect, then you put millions of bottles of Pepsi Perfect in the friggin' supermarket.
Yeah. Or
Common sense.
give them to the convenience stores even, so that way they can sell them there.
Big deal, you have a different top than you're not used to. So what? So what? What are you worried about? Organizing on the shelf? Just forget about it. Put it out. Put it out. What's the problem? What do you think you're going to fail? No. First of all, millions of people wanted it. They were telling you.
Like new Coke.
They're telling you, here's our money. Give it to us. This is the first time ever. You don't see anybody going to any soda company, could you please make this soda?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And what do? They're like, here's a couple of thousand. What?
A limited edition.
Talk about stupidity. Marketing failure. You could have had millions of dollars more. Because millions of people.
They could do it. What they could have done. Here we go. They could have done it as a lead up to today. And then have, okay, this is a limited edition thing, we'll admit it. We'll do it as a lead up to Back to the Future Day, and then afterwards we'll pull it until another celebration.
I would have released it today and let it be out the whole time it's 2015, right? If the sales are still there, keep it permanently.
Mm-hmm.
If not, take it away. But still, what would you going to lose? Like, nobody's ever going to knock on your door and say, Pepsi, we want this. There's no other drink other than Pepsi Perfect. They missed the boat. Missed it. Even Nike missed it because not as many people are going to buy the lace thing right away because they're going to be pissed off that they couldn't get it when they needed to get it. People are very funny about things. I mean, you know, with the exception of the hoverboard, if the hoverboard came out next year, everybody would be on it. But Pepsi Perfect, no, not everybody, because it's over with. And $20.15 a pop.
Oh.
What kind of crap is that? Would you buy a soda for $20?
No.
What are you, retarded? That's terrible.
Now, if it's a case, fine, but
That's ridiculous.
but even then, I'd go as
Ridiculous.
far as maybe.
Somebody needs to get fired with that nonsense. That's ridiculous. These people, like, did they
come back? Somebody's gonna come back and says, "Well, this is their new Coke. This is the new Coke for Pepsi."
Why wouldn't Coke do something now?
Yeah.
Why? That's another thing. Coke has been around for how long? Why aren't we trying new stuff? Why aren't you doing Coke too, like you did back in the '80s or something?
Yeah.
Do different things, formulas or something. Where is it? You know? Why is it always limited to cherry, lime, different types of sugar? Like, can't you think outside the box?
I can slip lime in a pop.
Right.
So I can mix two flavors. I can mix Dr. Pepper and Mr. Pibb, or I mean Dr. Pepper and Pepsi, or Coke and but somehow and get a cherry Coke that way.
Right.
Or but.
Or like banana Coke or something. Or like you know, a root beer Coke. Different, like weird. You know, something. What is it to experiment? How did they create the formula in the first place back in the day? They took a risk. They put it out. Everybody bought it. So, all right.
But Coke had it because Coca-Cola, because it was Coca-Cola. Pepsi couldn't use the word cola for a time. So.
All right, but still.
Yeah.
Again, like we had this discussion on the last Everything show, right? And the biggest thing I had a problem with is how is it that phones evolve beyond belief, but nobody has improved on the technology of microwaves. It's even worse, the microwaves now, than it used to be. Doesn't even cook the thing right.
The word isn't it funny? We have no problem of sticking food in a microwave, but yet someone talks about irradiating food. Oh no, we can't irradiate food. I know it's different radiation, but still, I mean, what's the difference?
And we had some comments on the videos, and one of the things that I said was, why can't we have an underwater city? To which somebody really came down hard on me like I'm an idiot and I'm stupid. Well, here's my logic behind it, okay? If we could create something to put into space that can basically see to the other side of the universe that it would take us 100 trillion years to reach, right? That basically it's going to get to a point where we're going to be looking through some alien's bedroom that's like, whatever, right? Or we could have a space station in space, right? That's in space. In space. What is it for us on our own planet to put a city under the water? What do you mean it can't be done? And to answer the question of the person who made a big deal like I'm an idiot, right? There was an article. Japan is building an underwater city. Okay? It will be out by 2030 something. So guess what? Being done. So yes, we can build underwater cities.
Somebody a few years ago creating an oil derrick was going to take oil derricks and build their own little city atop the.
You could build it up in the air and make it like compartments. And then when you bring it down, you connect it like a Lego or something. And then you have a filtration thing that will get the water out. Sort of like when you see these movies where they have a decontamination room.
Yeah.
Where the water goes down or something like Deep Star 6 or something, or Leviathan or whatever. And they're in the thing and the water like gets seeped out like a drain, like a bathtub, and it goes down the drain. You could have it like that. Why is that so hard to believe that we can't have that with the current technology and stuff?
Just hard to believe.
So, what do you say, Daniel?
Yeah, I think it's cool that they're making an underwater city.
Yeah, so I mean, again, answer to that question, yes, we can. And we are. And here's the screen share on it.
Oh. Sweet.
And there you go. Japan releases plans for a futuristic underwater city by 2030. And look at this. It's going to be possible. We are going to have an underwater city. How amazing is that?
Oh, just sweet.
Right? Look at this. They have it like they are really maxed out with the plans. I mean, talk about detail. They even plan on building plants inside the thing. So, there you have it. It's going to be done. That answers your question. Underwater cities coming. And on that note, we live in a world where it's going to be pretty soon. It's going to be a point in time where nothing is going to be impossible.
No, I mean right now it is. If somebody would just get around and do it, that's all it is.
Right. So before you know it, we could do anything as a society, as a world. So possibilities are endless. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye for now.
Ciao.